Hello, everyone. I welcome you all to another session of the Malgudi Group. And it is going to be a frabjous session because we are going to talk about nonsense poetry and we will try to find out some sense in the world of nonsense. We are going to talk about the text, The Select Nonsense of Sukumar Ray, translated by Sukanta Chaudhary from the original Bengali work, which is titled Abol Tabol or Rhymes Without Reason. But before going into Sukumar Ray's work, I think it is necessary to talk about the nonsense verse of Lewis Carroll and Edward Lear, whose characters have been compared to those created by Sukumar Ray in his work. So this will be just like setting the stage for our discussion on the translation of Abul Dabul. So let me talk about two particular poems of Lear and Carroll today. Edward Lear's The Jumblies and Lewis Carroll's Jabberwocky. Both these poems belong to the genre of nonsense verse, as we know. And this genre was common in the Victorian era. In both the poems, the coining of new unintelligible words and the portrayal of absurd, out of the ordinary situations baffle the reader. The poems are fun to read and better enjoyed if one does not worry about what they mean. But we want to talk about nonsense poetry, so we will try to see whether what we perceive as balderdash has a lot of hidden sensibility. Lear's poetry is about going out into the world and gaining experience. I won't be reading out the poems to you today. Rather, I would talk about those poems and I want you to look up those poems and read them on your own. Reading them on your own will give you a sense of unparalleled enjoyment. Okay, so let me just talk about them. The Jumblies, probably so named because of the jumble of colors in their appearance, are people who inhabit lands far away and hence are cut off from society other than their own. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, the poem specifies. Judging by the usual associations of the colors, we can say that the Jumblies are absorbed in their own confined world. They work hard, as a result of which their hands are blue with exhaustion. And they have no experience of the outside world, hence they are said to have green or inexperienced heads. The poem talks about a particular group of Jumblies who decide to cross the sea in a sieve and venture into alien lands. The sieve, with its tobacco pipe mast and the pea green sail, symbolizes the inadequacy of their preparation for the adventure they undertake. Their friends warn them that they will succumb to the hardships of their voyage and advise them not to leave their secure world. But the Jumblies are brave enough not to be threatened by the difficulty of their task. They set out to sea in a sieve. The Jumblies are soon in peril when the water comes in, but they do not lose their cool. With pinky paper, they cover their feet and pass the night in a crockery jar. Thus, they are able to evade danger and keep themselves safe. They whistle and sing songs to cheer themselves through the journey. Finally, they sail to a strange land all covered with trees. From there, they go on with their adventures, visit various other places, and buy a lot of interesting things. It is very interesting to read the things that they buy. After 20 long years, when they return to the land of Jumblies, their people are glad to welcome them back. They seem tall now that they have been to the lakes and the Torrible Zone and the hills of the Chankly Boar. Have you heard of these places? I guess not. This suggests that they have gained experience and bettered their lives by braving the unknown. Seeing them, their fellow Jumblies realize how important it is to take risks in life, and hence they too decide to go to the sea in a sieve. So that was all about Edward Lear's poem, The Jumblies. Now let us come to Lewis Carroll's poem, Jabberwocky. This is a poem we are all acquainted with. But let us go into the poem to find out what happens in that world of nonsense. The poem Jabberwocky is also about taking the plunge. The first 4 lines of the poem go like this. It was brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves and the mome rats outgrabe. The individual words here mean almost nothing. But we can sense that this is about a community going about their daily business of living. But they are not at ease, for something unnatural is out there lurking. Like the Jumblies who decide to go to the sea in a sieve, like they are warned by their fellow men, the boy in this poem is warned by his father of the fearsome Jabberwock and his equally frightening accomplices, the Jubjub bird and the frumious Bandersnatch. But the boy loves adventure and is unshaken in his determination. He goes out to seek his manxome foe with his vorpal sword in hand. The word vorpal kind of assures us, gives us the sense that the boy owns a powerful sword and hence is better prepared to face danger than the Jumblies are. The Jabberwock, catching a whiff of the impending combat, comes out through the eerie woods. And this eerie quality of the woods, this mysteriousness, is suggested by the word Tulji. Don't ask me why or how, but it kind of does. So Jabberwock comes out through the eerie woods with eyes of flame. The brave boy attacks his foe and finishes him off in no time. Triumphantly, he gallops back to his home, and this is suggested by the portmanteau word galumphing. Gallops back in a triumphant way. So he's galumphing. His father is proud to welcome his victorious son. The poem ends with the first 4 lines. Repeated, the lines are repeated. And this suggests a continuity of the usual life in the community. The immediate fear is tackled with, but this does not mean an end to all fears. Fears will rise again, they will be conquered, and lives will go on. Thus, these two poems convey a lot of sense through their words of nonsense. Serious language and tone are fit media for bringing home such sublime philosophies of life. But conveying them as efficiently, rather more efficiently, through humorous and nonsensical diction is something unique, which we find in Lear's and Carroll's poetry. So this was just an introduction to the world of nonsense verse. And in our next session, we will be talking about Sukumar Ray's work. In particular, we will be talking about the translation of Abol Tabol. And it is interesting that in this book, there is an introduction by Satyajit Ray, who remarks that in case of Lear and Carroll, the imaginary beings are not allowed to come too close to our familiar world, unlike Sukumar Ray's creations. So Sukumar Ray is like Lear and Carroll to some extent in his writings, but then again, there is a lot of difference. And we will explore his poetry in detail in the next session of Malgudi Group. So please stay tuned and join us for the next session. Meanwhile, do not forget to look up these two poems, The Jumblies by Edward Lear and Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll, and enjoy the worlds that they create for you. Thank you. Good night.